Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm outside today, so that always makes me happy. The birds are chirping and we're seeing signs of spring, and we have some sunny days coming up this week, so that is always something to look forward to. We also have 3 really good Tale of Despereaux chapters today, so get excited for that. With that in mind, we're going to do just a very quick mindful practice today called Grateful. And what I want you to do is just close your eyes and picture 3 things in your life that you are grateful for. And really picture them, really hold on to that thought and repeat that in your head. Or if you want, say it out loud and just really appreciate how grateful you are for just 3 things. And you maybe have more things that you're grateful for, but let's focus on just 3 things today to be grateful for. And when you're ready, you can bring your attention back to me and let's get into chapter 19, Light, Light Everywhere. Imagine, if you will, having spent the whole of your life in a dungeon. Imagine that late one spring day, you step out of the dark and into a world of bright windows and polished floors, winking copper pots, shining suits of armor, and tapestries sewn in gold. Imagine, and while you are imagining things, imagine this too. Imagine that at the same time the rat steps from the dungeon and into the castle, a mouse is being born upstairs, a mouse reader who is destined to meet the light bedazzled rat. But that meeting will occur much later, and for now, the rat is nothing but happy, delighted, amazed to find himself standing in so much light. "I," said Roscuro, spinning dizzily from one bright thing to the next, "I will never leave. No, never. I will never go back to the dungeon. Why would I? I will never torture another prisoner. It is here that I belong." The rat waltzed happily from room to room until he found himself at the door to the banquet hall. He looked inside and saw gathered there King Philip, Queen Rosemary, the Princess P, 20 noble people, a juggler, 4 minstrels, and all the king's men. This party, reader, was a sight for rats' eyes. Roscuro had never seen happy people. He had known only the miserable ones. Gregory the jailer and those who were consigned to his domain did not laugh or smile or clink glasses with the person sitting next to them. Roscuro was enchanted. Everything glittered, everything, the gold spoons on the table and the jingle bells on the juggler's cap, the strings on the minstrels' guitars, and the crowns on the king's and the queen's heads. And the little princess, how lovely she was, how much like light herself. Her gown was covered in sequins that winked and glimmered at the rat. And when she laughed, and she laughed often, everything around her seemed to glow brighter. "Oh, really?" said Roscuro. "This is too extraordinary. This is too wonderful. I must tell Botticelli that he was wrong. Suffering is not the answer. Light is the answer." And he made his way into the banquet hall. He lifted his tail off the ground and held it in an angle and marched in time to the music the minstrels were playing on their guitars. The rat reader invited himself to the party. Chapter 20. A View from a Chandelier. There was in the banquet hall a most beautiful and ornate chandelier. The crystals that hung from it caught the light of the candles on the table and the light from the face of the laughing princess. They danced to the rhythm of the minstrel's music, swaying back and forth, twinkling and beckoning. What better place to view all this glory, all this beauty? There was so much laughing and singing and juggling that no one noticed as Roscuro crawled up a table leg and onto the table, and from there flung himself onto the lowest branch of the chandelier. Hanging by one paw, he swung back and forth, admiring the spectacle below, the smells of the food, the sound of the music, and the light. The light, the light, amazing, unbelievable. Roscuro smiled and shook his head. Unfortunately, a rat can hang from a chandelier for only so long before he is discovered. This would be true at even the loudest of parties. Reader, do you know who it was that spotted him? You're right. That sharp-eyed Princess P. A rat, she shouted. A rat is hanging from the chandelier. The party, as I have noted, was loud. The minstrels were strumming and singing. The people were laughing and eating. The man with the jingle cap was juggling and jingling. No one in the midst of all this merriment heard the P. No one except for Roscuro. Rat. He had never before been aware of what an ugly word it was. Rat. In the middle of all that beauty, it immediately became clear that it was an extremely distasteful syllable. Rat. A curse, an insult, a word totally without light, and not until he heard it from the mouth of the princess did Roscuro realize that he did not like being a rat, that he did not want to be a rat. This revelation hit Roscuro with such force that it made him lose his grip on the chandelier. The rat, reader, fell. And alas, he fell right directly into the Queen's bowl of soup. Chapter 21. The Queen loved soup. She loved soup more than anything in the world except for the Princess P and the King. And because the Queen loved it, soup was served in the castle for every banquet, every lunch, and every dinner. And what soup it was! Cook's love and admiration for the Queen and her palate moved the broth that she concocted from the level of mere food to a high art. On this particular day, for this particular banquet, Cook had outdone herself. The soup was a master work, a delicate mingling of chicken, watercress, and garlic. Roscuro, as he surfaced from the bottom of the Queen's capacious bowl, could not help taking a few appreciative sips. Lovely, he said, distracted for a moment from the misery of his existence. Delightful. See, shouted the P. See? She pointed her finger right at Roscuro. It is a rat. I told you that it was a rat. He was hanging from the chandelier, and now he is in Mamma's soup. The musicians stopped playing their guitars. The jugglers stopped juggling. The noble people stopped eating. The Queen looked at Roscuro. Roscuro looked at the Queen. Reader, in the spirit of honesty, I must utter a difficult and unsavory truth. Rats are not beautiful creatures. They're not even cute. They are really rather nasty beasts, particularly if one happens to appear in your bowl of soup with pieces of watercress clinging to his whiskers. There was a long moment of silence, and then Roscuro said to the Queen, I beg your pardon. In response, the Queen flung her spoon in the air and made an incredible noise, a noise that was in no way worthy of a queen, a noise somewhere between the neigh of a horse and the squeal of a pig, a noise that sounded something like "Nink!" And then she said, There is a rat in my soup. The Queen was really a simple soul, and always her whole life had done nothing except state the overly obvious. She died as she lived. There is a rat in my soup, were the last words she uttered. She clutched her chest and fell over backward. Her royal chair hit the floor with a thump, and the banquet hall exploded. Spoons were dropped. Chairs were flung back. Save her! Thundered the King. You must save her! All the King's men ran to try and rescue the Queen. Roscuro climbed out of the bowl of soup. He felt that under the circumstances it would be best if he left. As he crawled across the tablecloth, he remembered the words of the prisoner in the dungeon, his regret that he did not look back at his daughter as he left her, and so Roscuro turned. He looked back, and he saw that the princess was glaring at him. Her eyes were filled with disgust and anger. Go back to the dungeon, was the look she gave him. Go back into the darkness where you belong. This look, reader, broke Roscuro's heart. Did you think that rats don't have hearts? Wrong. All living things have a heart. and the heart of any living thing can be broken. If the rat had not looked over his shoulder, perhaps his heart would not have been broken, and it is possible then that I would not have a story to tell. But, reader, he did look. And that is where we will leave today. We will get back into Despereaux tomorrow. Keep your mind on those 3 things to be grateful for. And I have a longer grateful activity that we will do tomorrow as well. So have a great night, guys, and I will see you tomorrow.